on the agenda, we are going to discuss season 2 of The Lord of the Rings of Power. This is kind of a big deal because I don't know if anybody knows this, but our most downloaded episode of the podcast by a wide margin is season 1 of The Rings of Power. And this is across podcast downloads, and this is kind of true on YouTube too. I think it's number 2. But anyway, you people love your Lord of the Rings, or you love to hate on your Lord of the Rings in this case.
Yeah.
So, Alec, let's unpack season 2.
Great. So, well, first off, I'm going to get it off here. Some clarification is that both you and I were going to watch this no matter what. We are not caving to you as our listeners.
No, that's true. That's true.
I was going to watch this no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's just do that. So I want to like this so much. I really do. And it's not bad in any sense of the word. I think it's better than season 1 in some aspects. With it, and then other aspects I liked other stuff. This did like how do I say this? I feel like this needed to be either shorter episodes or not as many episodes. Like I just feel there's a little too much time where there's a lot of either downtime or just unnecessary dialogue that is not interesting, at least to me. Both Laura and I kind of did this. Overall, I enjoyed it. I absolutely loved the dwarf stuff. I loved that it felt much more focused on the dwarf stuff, and Durin and all of that. That was super interesting. I like how they did bring Galadriel back a little bit, and she didn't feel as much of the main character, and let some of the other elf characters kind of have their own. And I was really, really happy that Arondir had very little screen time, because he was definitely my least favorite in the first one. So, and I felt like his acting chops unfortunately, I'm sorry, did not grow at all in between the seasons. I felt like they were somewhat worse, but I don't think he had a whole lot to work with in the second season. So overall, I'm still I see the potential. I love it's shot really well. I love all the colors. I love that it's not trying to do this Game of Thrones dark that everything else is really trying to do. I love that it's trying to embrace some of the fantasy aspects of it, and even going much more even colorful than even Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. But I'm not there yet in my love for these seasons. Like, it's not a slog to get through, but it's not like I would sit down and watch all 3 Lord of the Rings films right now back to back, and I'd be super happy for the 9 or 12 hours it takes to watch all of them. Not really happy in watching all of these again in a short amount of time. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. No, I'm not really on too much of a different page than you are. I kind of go back to the challenge that this has, which is that, the Lord of the Rings films and even The Hobbit, if they would have stuck closer to the source material, like the source material's this very developed, intact thing that they're using to write scripts from. And this show, that's just not true. Like, you've got appendices from this and elements of that, and it's muddy. And so the source material is muddy, and so the show, unfortunately, is pretty muddy. Now, I will say, and I'm sure this is not true at all, right? I know it's not true, but I felt listened to with a lot of the choices for season 2 based on our discussion on season 1. Like, I felt like they addressed a lot of the issues. Some of it was them actually, I think, listening to some fan or viewer complaint. And then some of it was just logistics. Like, the reason Arondir is featured less is because the love interest he has in the first season, she quit the show. I don't remember why, but she went bye-bye. And so that was supposed to be a continuation of their love affair in season 2. And so Fortunately, like we don't get that because I don't want to watch it. But yeah, they like clearly listened to us with the dwarves, made that like a major storyline. It's incredible. The scene,
Yes.
we're gonna play spoiler. The scene with Durin Senior with the Balrog is incredible.
Yeah.
Like that scene in the finale was just ridiculous. Like even the dialogue there was really good, like about them arm wrestling, and it's just really well done. Like
Yes.
Unfortunately, the show just doesn't have that many moments that command like that kind of awe-inspiring, I'm watching Lord of the Rings. There's just a handful of those moments in season 2, and a lot of them are reserved for the finale.
Much like season 1,
yes,
unfortunately. Yeah.
But it's like I can see the potential, and that's my frustration is like they hit me with these glimpses of like where the ceiling could be for this show, and it's really high, but they're not usually writing that from episode to episode. Like they're not.
I mean, I did like they brought some characters that were much more side characters in season 1 for obvious reasons, but like Celebrimbor, I loved the dynamic between him and Sauron
that stuff is narratively speaking, that's the best stuff in the show.
Yeah, and they did a great job of kind of showing Sauron being the deceiver, like throughout the entire, season or whatever. I love the flashbacks of him in the beginning where it's like he's trying to talk to the orcs and then he gets killed or whatever, and then him trying to find his way back. But then it's also kind of him, even in the moments of like. When he's talking with like the old man and the old man, you think like, oh, Sauron's going to be maybe he be talking to me being good. No. He's deceiving the old man. Like this, he's still the deceiver. Like he is evil at his core, but this is how good he is as the deceiver. He even makes you, the viewer, start to wonder whether or not he can be turned good. This is not Anakin Skywalker. This is not Darth Vader. Like this guy is black soul through and through. He's
Charlie Vickers is incredible.
Yes, he is.
Like and I didn't know. You saw little glimpses of it in season 1, but you still came away like, I don't know if this guy's really going to be able to pull off like the full-on Sauron reveal, and he does. And the writing, fortunately, in that part of the show is really good. And I mean, based on the appendices and different things, this is an utterly fantastic rendition of him deceiving Celebrimbor and getting most of the rings made. Right down to the way he poisons his mind into how he sees the forge area and the rest of the city is incredible. Like really, really, really well done. That's like the high point in the show as far as a narrative that carries like all the way through. The dwarf stuff's really good.
Yes,
the elven stuff is not interesting to me, and I'll tell you that the writers think that it's more interesting than it is, and the reason I know this is because in the finale, they should have ended the show with Tom Bombadil and Gandalf singing.
Yes, I thought that's where they're going to end it as well.
They should have ended on that scene, and that scene's incredible. For me, on a personal note, it's really cool. But they go up to the stars, to the constellation, shift the constellation, come back down, and you're in Elven land, and they're trying to make a bigger deal out of the elves like reuniting or whatever, and it's just like, no, this is not interesting. The stuff with Tom and him singing in his house in the desert is like fantastic. And dude, it killed me. My dad, my late father would have loved that scene, because that's the closest we're going to get to, unless they do a mini series of Lord of the Rings down the line and actually feature Tom. And Bombadil was my dad's favorite character in the book.
Okay.
And that sequence was, and What's the actor that plays him?
Who plays Tom Bombadil?
He's been in a bunch of stuff, and I'm blanking on.
Give me a second.
He was in like the newer Bond films. Anyway, he's fantastic as Bombadil.
Yeah.
He's not as merry as what you get in Fellowship of the Ring in the book. He's a little more serious, but the whimsical nature to him, kind of mysterious nature to him, is like really there. But yeah, my dad would have loved like seeing a proper in the flesh.
Oh yeah,
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, Rory Kinnear. So
yeah,
he was in like Quantum of Solace, Imitation
Yep.
Game, he's Skyfall. Yeah,
he's great.
Yeah, he is. So I'm gonna let out a little secret here. I am not a Tom Bombadil fan at all. I was actually super excited that he was not in the Lord of the Rings series in the movies, and I get a lot of hate for that. I know there's a lot of love for I just didn't like him. Like it's not that I didn't like him in the books. I just kind of for me. I'm always like, this just doesn't fit for me. Like I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I will say, before you jump in, I will say, for a rendition of him, this is my favorite one. The way they portrayed him in this series was excellent. Like I was like, because obviously I knew right away it was Tom Bombadil. I was like, no. And I was dreading kind of having to interact with him. But then they didn't. I don't feel like they went over the top with it. I think they were really reserved with kind of the Bombadil-is of him from the books. And and for me, I like that. I know that probably maybe angered some fans, but anyways.
Oh, I'm sure. But well, even Tolkien's like the very nature of the fact that he's only in the first book and like they visit with him and they kind of interact and then they leave and you never hear from him again would tell you that it's like this experimental narrative that Tolkien almost tried and then just decided, well, yeah, we're not going in that direction. But he's still the reason my father found him so interesting is because, you know, Tolkien was very devout Roman Catholic, and Tom Bombadil and his wife, was it Goldberry? I think so. Anyway, if I'm probably botching it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, Tom Bombadil is Adam, the Genesis narrative Adam, as he should have been had he not fallen to sin. And his wife is Eve, had she not fallen into sin. And so it's this really interesting character dynamic with these characters that are as old as time itself in the world of Lord of the Rings that are completely devoid of any evil or malice or any they're like the last unspoiled vestiges of creation as it was originally intended. It's they're really interesting characters, but there's not really anywhere to go with them because they're basically perfect. So I liked that the only offering for Bombadil in this show was just kind of a guiding force for Gandalf.
Gandalf, yeah.
Which I'm fine that it's Gandalf. We all suspected it was. And I'm cool that the other guy's not Sauron. Yeah. He's some sort of blue wizard or something, which is referenced in other writings, but I'm okay with it being Gandalf. Like it doesn't ruin anything to me. Like they could easily just kill him off in this show and then he'd be reborn again in some other, in like the second or third age or whatever. Yeah. So
I will say 100% don't care about the storyline, like at all. Like with the Dark Wizard and all that stuff. I'm just like, oh, just give me the dwarves. Give me more dwarves.
Yeah.
You know,
well, the Harfoots didn't annoy me as much this season mainly because there's less of them. Like
there's a lot less. There's a lot less. And I'd even be like, give me the stupid political intrigue of Numenor, which is not interesting at all. But I mean, I will take Gandalf and Bombadil. Like that was interesting near the end. But
the only thing that's going to be interesting with Numenor is its fall.
Yeah,
like its full and complete fall of Numenor will be devastating, and you can already see the cracks in the foundations basically. But yeah, that stuff's never interesting. Fortunately, they didn't spend a lot of time there either. No. And they spend even less time with Isildur.
Which, oh my goodness, I was really not excited about that storyline either. I was like, just leave him to get eaten. Horse, save yourself. Let him get eaten by spiders. It's fine.
I still love the online conjecture that Theo may end up being a wraith down the line.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll see if this is true. There's a lot of conjecture on like who the Witch King of Angmar will be, and if he in the show currently in some sort of form or fashion, and Theo actually is a leading candidate to be, but I think a lot of the wraiths I think are from Numenor, or at least a couple of them I believe are Numenorian like rulers or leaders or something like that. So we'll see. I mean, Amazon's committed, like no matter what, to just churn this show out, even though like the ratings aren't good. And
this one definitely got better. What reviews I saw talked that it was a whole lot better. And of course, the only reviews I really got were all like the day the first 3 episodes dropped. So I can't tell if like they were able to watch the whole show or they're just like things we hate of just reviewing the entire series based off of 3 episodes.
It's the latter.
It's so frustrating.
They watched like, 2 episodes, or I think, and they did a 3 episode drop too.
Yeah, they did, which is good. Though I totally did not watch this coming out. Like, I think we just finished this. We just started this and finished this like in November. So like all the episodes were already out. So we basically just kind of, breezed through it without having to wait a week.
I've been done with it for a good bit. I think I had to, I didn't finish it until we got back from our trip to the Emerald Isle. But by the way, if anybody's listening from the lovely Ireland.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful place.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an absolute delight. Can't say that enough. Wonderful place.
I saw the pictures. It looks good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So I'm going to jump back a little bit to the storyline of Charlie Vickers and then Charles Edwards as Celebrimbor.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you right now, I was really not upset, but confused how they were going to do the other rings, because they revealed that Sauron was Sauron at the end of season 1. And I'm like, well, he only made 3 rings. How is he going to how is he going to get people to do the other ones? And I was really confused because I know in the talks about Celebrimbor was basically the one who was duped to make these rings. And I was like, if they know they're Sauron, but I think they handled it really well. Like, it was super interesting and it makes sense of like Galadriel not wanting to be vulnerable and show how she was taken advantage of and how she didn't see it, except for telling the High King. But then everyone kind of playing it fast and, close to the chest of like, well, we don't want to really tell everyone that Sauron's here, but we're just trying to give these different reasons. And then Sauron, of course, being well ahead of everybody, goes in and announces himself as, oh crap, what is his actual like non-corrupted form or whatever?
Is it Anatar?
And Anatar is the name he used.
Oh,
but,
Halbrand?
Not Halbrand. Like, no, he's like a Maya or whatever. Like his angel form kind of thing or
it's
whatever.
It's Anatar. It's the bearer. The bearer of gifts, but that's his name. That's his name given when he's in that angelic form.
Yeah. So,
which was really well done. Him duping Celebrimbor into thinking he was sent from the Valar or something like that.
Yeah, Valar to do that.
Yeah, that was like really, I was like, wow, yeah, that's super convincing. Like,
yeah. And like I said, it went better. It went much better than I expected to, because again, I was so confused, like, how are they going to do this? And then they did, and it showed just again bringing home this point of how much Sauron truly is the deceiver and how much he uses other people's like preconceived notions or desires, because he knew Celebrimbor wanted to make the rings. He just had to find that way in to tell him that, hey, it's okay. You can defy, the High King's orders. Like he was just like Celebrimbor already wanted to do that. So it was just Sauron was just like, what's the buttons I push? And he just found them. And I loved all of that. And then of course, he was able to do the same things and putting that stuff in the ring. I love the moment when they're making the dwarven rings, and Celebrimbor's about to put the ore in the mithril into the furnace, and then Sauron stops him and says, "No, I got it," and he puts it in there. He just holds that moment of like, I'm investing some of my malice or whatever into it, and then dumps it in. And I'm just like, I love it. It just the small notes, just the small things to make it work out. So like in some areas, this really worked and did a great job. And again, I love the absolute everything about the dwarves. That whole storyline with losing the son, but also then the fight between the father and son and kind of that whole arc, like it just was the most interesting thing about the entire show, in my opinion. I mean, I do have a soft spot for dwarves, but I will say that the guy who's playing Durin and his wife, they're just absolutely amazing actors.
Yeah, Owen, Arthur, and then Sophia.
Yeah, just absolutely.
But
amazing.
Peter Mullen plays Durin the Third, and he's tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know if you remember him as the like police officer security guy that in Children of Men that smuggles them around. Yeah, he's great. He's great. But yeah, I love that scene at the end in the finale with him. When he calls him King Durin, and it basically apologizes for leading them down this road where the basically awakening the Balrog.
The Balrog, yeah.
Was it Durin's Bane? Who's what it's actually referred to in the
series. I also thought interesting, like kind of a lot of the depravity of the rings, of how quickly it took the King Durin, but also interesting of like how similar it was to the One Ring from Lord of the Rings too, of like the very much the I'm attached to this ring. Like I was waiting for King Durin to call it my precious at some moment, and and I'm glad he didn't, because I felt like that would have been a little too on the nose. But like he was very worried about it, and like that was, I think, very, very important. And of course, talking about the rings, there was that interesting point where they, when they were at Celebrimbor and his aides or whatever, his other blacksmiths were making it, and one of them goes and puts it on and then goes invisible and goes into the shadow realm. And that I was like, ooh, I see foreshadowing. This is, pun intended, by the way, foreshadowing going on. I was like, this is fantastic. So like, there's a little small bits that I think they did really well with.
Yeah, and I think I mean, that was the main intent of season 2, is the deception of Celebrimbor and the manufacturing of most of the rings. And I'm sure there's, if you're a purist and you're like, well, why didn't, is Sauron gonna have to make the rings of men on his own? I mean, that might be a departure. I know they've kind of hidden them, but it doesn't really matter, because those were the most corruptible people anyway, are the 9. So it doesn't matter if those were forged by Celebrimbor or just Sauron, or no, I think that was the main narrative, and I think that's the main takeaway. And if the season's worth watching again, it would just be for kind of those scenes. And I love Celebrimbor's, like, his realization. I mean, this Charles Edwards, his performance is every bit as good as Vickers there opposite. I mean, they're just really carving out some really high level acting opposite each other. But I love that exchange when Celebrimbor's like speared up against that pillar, and this realization takes hold where he's telling Sauron, like, you think you're ruling over everything with these rings. You're not. You're a slave to this. Yeah. Like, you're going to be a slave to this, the Lord of the Rings. So it was a really interesting take. Like something, it's not in the book or anything like that, but it was just like this nice touch of, like, again, foreshadowing of, like, he eventually will be prisoner to the fact that he's poured, like, so much of himself and his malice and magic and power into this piece of jewelry ultimately will be his undoing. Like it's really cool. So I think as long as the show sticks to this core feature, this core narrative, every season should get successfully better. Like it just should, because we're getting closer to more crystallized source material, like as far as Sauron building an army, and obviously it probably will all culminate with the battle that you see glimpses of at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, that's what we get. And we get Isildur cutting off his finger and taking the ring for himself. And it'll be interesting where they actually decide to, like,
stop it.
But I'm here for it. I enjoyed it. It's a heck of a lot better than the first few episodes of, like, House of the Dragon season 2 that, like, I couldn't slog through, and I have to go back to that show. Like, I didn't finish it. Like, it was so funny because this show was getting crapped on, during because season 1 of the House of the Dragon was really pretty solid, and now that stopped. Like, it's like, oh, they went radio silent because this show's garbage now. Like, absolute trash. And this one's getting better. So
yeah, we're the same boat. We had started House of Dragon first for season 2, and I think got about 3 or 4 episodes in or something like that, and or not even that much, but stopped and just cold turkey of, like, I was like, at some point I need to get back to that, but I've been watching so many other things instead.
Yeah.
We may not do a House of Dragon season 2.
We may not. No, I haven't. I'm gonna have to, like. We don't. Yeah. Unless, like, a bunch of people write in requesting it, like, it'll be a while. It'll be a while.
There are other shows that we need to go through and talk about before we get back to that.
Yeah.
So, but this, I mean, definitely will. I mean, you and I both have a special love for Lord of the Rings, both on our own and then just us watching it together, as well. That this is definitely something that I'm going to continue to watch, and even as much as I dislike. I think The Hobbit went way off the rails and is not great. I will 100% watch Lord of the Rings, those 3.
So
continue.
The irony with the Hobbit movies is that there's a line from Bilbo in Fellowship of the Ring where he tells Gandalf, "I'm tired. I need a holiday. I feel like I'm butter scraped over, like, too much bread." That's Peter Jackson's The Hobbit.
Well, he didn't actually want to do it. He was like, let someone else do The Hobbit. And I think he got talked into it or roped into it.
Well, he did, but, like, he still was the one that decided to, like, span it over 3 films instead of 2, and it didn't.
And then try to turn it into something bigger than what it needed to be. Like, it's an adventure book. Like, it's a fun, that's what it needed to be. Anyways, that's our mini talk on the Hobbit series. So, because that's going to be a long time before we actually even discuss that. We're going to be out of a whole lot of other things.
Yeah.
I want to go back and just talk about the shots and the kind of, I haven't done any research to know how much of this is in camera and how much of this, the backdrop, or if a lot of it's done in just all CGI and they're just on green screens and, in different sets or whatever. But I do, again, love just the look of this TV show. I love, again, how they're embracing color. They're embracing the daytime. Not everything is super dark. Not everything is super gray or brown. It's like you've got all these different colors. And I some of the shots that they've done are, like, super interesting. Like, a lot of times the fight scene in, oh my goodness, Celebrimbor City or whatever was really interesting as well. Like, how they did some of the lighting aspects of it, at least in my estimation.
So I believe that was a lot of set that they built. A lot of set. I think I saw a brief featurette or something on YouTube that the actors were talking about how much of the set was complete, that they didn't have to, like, imagine, and that like columns were falling over and exploding and stuff. So they had a lot of practical effects during the sequence when the city was getting under siege. So I felt like season 2 had a lot more going on in camera than season 1 from my own from just my eye, like it felt that way. It felt like there were instances where they were shooting on location more, like in the woods, and they shot in the UK, which is much more faithful like location shooting. I mean, I love New Zealand, but like, I mean, Tolkien, that was it's where he modeled everything after was Britain. So from that standpoint, like it should look a little more faithful. I don't know about the desert stuff. I don't know where they would have gone for that. The only scenes to me that like just feel like sets is a lot of Numenor just feels that way. I think it's going to be hard for them to get away from that. And then some of the interiors for Moria.
Yeah. Well, I mean that one's hard to do.
Yeah, that's going to be the way it is. But everything else, like, yeah. I thought they got a lot in camera, a lot more than I think people are thinking.
Yeah. And I think the costumes were done really well too. I mean, like everything just feels like this is not like, I don't want to say high fantasy, but it definitely feels like this is not this is realistic fantasy or trying to be realistic. Like it could happen. This is definitely keeping its kind of mythos and the fantastical happening.
I just love that they've tried to really feel like they've preserved as much of the Peter Jackson aesthetic as they could. It feels like the same world. It really does. It never feels like a departure. I've seen some complaints online where they're like, oh, okay, this is Numenorian armor in the show versus like Numenorian style armor like in Lord of the Rings, and they feel like it's a super big downgrade, and they're like, oh, the costumes look cheap. There are instances of that, but overall, I don't really get that in the show. I never felt like the costumes felt like chintzy or.
Well, and I'm definitely not looking that hard at some of them. And
I feel like people are picking this thing apart, though. Like,
yeah,
they want to pick it apart.
And I will say, like, I definitely didn't notice that here. Like I just said the costume looks pretty good. Whereas I noticed things like in the first season of The Witcher where the bad guy's armor looks terrible. Like I did notice that. And so I didn't notice that here. So if you are, I mean, I'm sure there are instances because you got to save some money somewhere. And so you're not going to, soldier number 57, who's like 3 rows deep, doesn't need the same quality armor. But if you really nitpick it, then yeah, sure, you can see it, but just kind of viewing.
I mean, I enjoyed the battle sequences. I thought it was really cool that the Uruks dammed up the river so that they could ford it, and then it was like some kind of unique things when that city's toast. Yeah, and like you almost need to have like read some source material to understand like how devastating it was for that city in particular to end up being utterly destroyed. Like that was like a crown jewel of the elven kingdoms, and it's just eviscerated by the orcs. The other
and
so
Adar played right into his hands.
Yep. And that was which reminds me, I had super big concerns about that guy being recast from, what was it? It was like Joseph Mall or something that played him that was in Game of Thrones, that played Adar in season 1. And I did a really nice job. I was actually pretty pleased with the guy that replaced him, that they recast him with. I thought he was, I about halfway through, I kind of forgot that it was a recast. I was like, no, this feels pretty good. And his arc's really interesting. It kind of comes out of nowhere though, too. But it's like the power, I guess it's the power of that ring, right? I thought it was a really cool moment when he has the ring on, that it's completely, while he has the ring on, it's healed him of all that torture and scarring that he's experienced at the hand of, I guess Sauron or was it Morgoth? I think it was Morgoth.
It was Morgoth, yeah.
Yeah.
So now, so it's funny that you mentioned that, because honestly, I didn't even know they had switched actors.
Oh yeah,
at all, because I didn't do much reading before.
So the original guy was the one that played Benjen Stark.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
he's got a little narrower features and stuff. Like he's just got thinner features, his nose and stuff like that. And it's hard for me to even say whether the guy's like a better actor now, because this guy that replaced him was excellent. Like,
yeah. Again, and now I didn't really go, but I would watched it a year ago or something like that. However long it's been, 2 years ago.
2 years, yeah.
That I watched this and saw it, and then I didn't go back and rewatch it, so I didn't have a whole lot. So for me, it worked. So directors, producers, don't be afraid to recast. It's okay. Like, just do it. Just do it. Like, let's recast Luke Skywalker. Come on, you got it.
With Sebastian.
Oh, absolutely. Sebastian looks exactly like it's fantastic. I've
They're
seen like
losing
the
time though. Like every year that they wait,
he gets older.
He gets older,
and he's doing other things now. So, anyways, that's the other one.
I love how you got Star Wars into this conversation.
Always.
Oh,
getting close to Andor season 2, buddy. So we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, man.
But it is. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like it felt a little bit out of nowhere with the ring, and I understand why, because he wanted to beat Sauron, but he got played just like everybody else got played by Sauron. Just he fell right into his hands, thinking he was doing the right thing, and
Galadriel's getting wiser. I mean, she's starting to get closer to figuring out, being close to on the level with him as far as like what he's attempting to do. So it's the question's going to be, can she get anybody to actually listen to her or not?
Yeah.
So, but
that's the question.
I like that they made, to me anyways, Galadriel felt less abrasive.
Yeah.
She,
like a little bit more, world-wise or whatever.
Yeah. And like graceful, I guess. Like I feel like they're trying to transition her into getting closer, I guess, to
Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, but I don't know how you could do that. Like, it just seems, of course, it's like, how many hundreds of years are we?
Lots.
So yeah, it's time for her to get more grace-filled and grow another 6 inches. So
well, and she also becomes a queen, I believe, too.
Yeah,
or something like that. So that kind of changes things around from what she is now.
Yeah.
So you're not the one off gallivanting trying to kill these people. You're sending you're the person sending people. Unless you're Elrond, apparently, for basically a philosopher, he knows how to fight.
Yeah.
Put up some good stuff. Because they made a point of him, of Galadriel not being happy that he was in charge of the people.
Yes.
Because he's like, so he changed pretty quickly. He held himself well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's, I guess, how many seasons have they confirmed? How many seasons they want to do with this?
I have no idea.
5 was a number I think I'd sort of think was bandied about, but.
And hopefully they've got they've actually got the storylines for them and not just like, oh, we want to do 5 seasons and we'll just figure it on the way out. I mean,
well, they made this weird decision where they decided to they jettisoned pretty much most of the writing team for season 2 and brought in like a whole fresh. And they said it wasn't because the writers were bad for season 2. They just wanted
new
I think
ideas.
They have story structure there in place of like an outline, but they want, I don't know. That seems risky to me, but
well, we'll see how it pays off.
Usually you pick the right team for the job, and then as long as they're doing a good job, you just keep them there. But,
well, and you also have consistency. And though I will say, I mean, while I like some of the dialogue, there's still some bits like could get punched up. So I can understand why maybe not.
Yeah.
So, well, you got anything else?
No.
All right. Well,
no, and it's going to be several years before season 3 is a thing. But
well, when it happens, you'll hear about it here. Not first.
Not first,
but you'll definitely hear about it here at Cinema A to B. So with that, we just want to say thank you to everybody who's given us a listen. We appreciate everybody who joins us, who listens in to kind of just Ben and I just meander and talk about the things we like about this show or these films. So if you like the first season and you stayed on and you listened to it multiple times because you either really hate Rings of Power, or you really love Rings of Power, hopefully you also enjoy this episode. We're going to come to you next week on a Monday with a new episode of Cinema A to B. And until then, thank you so much.